Coach John Fankhauser to discuss the 2020 Walsh Football Signing Class. Coach, thanks for joining me to discuss who's coming on board for next year.
Thank you. It's been a real exciting recruiting season, and we're kind of excited to have it be kind of put to rest a little bit, even though we're not completely done. We've got a large bulk of our group done so far.
Well, as we were just counting, 37 guys signed, and you're bringing in 3 transfers. I think you're almost 10 higher than what the class was last year. What was the whole mindset of coming into the recruiting cycle? Is okay, this is what we need to look for.
Well, as most of us small private schools, we got to get some numbers and refill our roster spots that we have, which was a big push for us this year. The exciting thing for me as the head coach and for our staff was we had a full group of guys out recruiting. And that made it a little easier, not just on 3 or 4 guys picking up the pieces for others. So we had all of our full-time staff out recruiting. They did a great job at getting kids on campus, and once they get on campus, we have a pretty good success rate of landing those young men.
Now, when you guys go out and have all these staff on the ground, is there a certain area that you are trying to excel at and pull those kids from? I see a lot of almost kind of northern Ohio, central Ohio base.
Well, we would like the 50-mile radius of Walsh to be a really big hub for us as far as trying to lock that down if you could. That's what our goal is. We did a great job with that number. We have 15 local kids within the 20-mile radius.
Okay.
7 Stark County kids, a number of Summit and Tuscarawas County kids as well. So we did a good job in that radius, and then trying to hit the Youngstown, Cleveland, Columbus, even Toledo area, and then Western Pennsylvania a little bit as well.
Now, after the competitive season you guys had last year, what was the position group per se that you wanted to fill in coming into this recruiting class?
Well, probably number one positionally that we had graduated a lot of guys or we're getting ready to graduate a lot of guys is in our secondary, our safeties. So we felt really strongly that we had to make sure we filled those needs as well, first and foremost. A little bit again on the defensive line was another big area of concern. Offensive line is another area where I think we brought 5 in as of yesterday, and we're looking to maybe bring 1 or 2 more in on that as well. And then wide receiver was a big area coming out of the season that we felt like we wanted to try to become a little bit more dynamic in those areas as far as athleticism.
Well, 3 transfers you brought in were all wide receivers, and a number of wide receivers throughout the high school class. Let's talk, I guess, a little bit about those wide receivers.
Okay, well, Terrius Callahan came from Austin Peay. He's going to be a junior eligibility-wise, but he's a long, athletic kid. He's done a great job of fitting in on our campus so far. I really like what he's brought to our campus to this point. Ryan Mullica is a local kid from Greene. Played with Matt Amison last year, ended up going to Akron and decided he wanted to come back and get back into football. He's joined up as well. He's a kid that's got some speed and athleticism as well. And then Jeremy Lubin from the College of the Canyons transferred in as well, and he came through Forrest Carter, who had played with him there. But he's originally from the Florida area, and all 3 of those guys have come in and joined up with our team, got to know our groups, and been working in our leadership program.
Now the second half to that duo would be the quarterback. You signed 3 quarterbacks as well to bolster the rotation that you would have had coming off of last year.
Mm-hmm. Well, with Nick's going to be a senior. Tadas will be a redshirt sophomore, and Ryder will be a redshirt freshman. Just having 3 of those guys on because we believe Riley James is going to probably move to receiver as well. We wanted to make sure we brought some of those guys in, and Luke Lindsay was a guy that his brother plays for, so we really knew him quite well. Had watched him, kind of grow as he's done, and we've been recruiting him since last year as well, about this time or maybe even a little earlier than that just because of the brother connection. But really like what he does. He's an athletic kid that can throw the ball and stands in the pocket. And then Evan Legg is from South Central, another quarterback that is coming in. And Bryce Newland from Paint Valley is a little bit bigger than the other two as far as stature goes, but has some athleticism and like what he does.
Switch gears to the running back position. Another group where you brought in 3 or 4 to bolster what you had behind Kobe and Devin and the group that was leading out of the backfield last year.
Mm-hmm. The running back position, again, we're starting to finally get to the point on offense where we're getting older. So Kobe's going to be a graduating senior. Antoine Wilson will be a graduating senior. Devin Kennerly will be a junior next year. So we're starting to get older, not just in the running back spots, but in some of those other ones as well. So we wanted to make sure we kind of brought in some guys and felt pretty good about where they're at with the running backs and all the things that we are asking that running back to do. So, Ethan Atkins from Jackson is a local kid that we really liked and was pretty high on our list, and he kind of has a little bit different style than some of the other guys that even we brought in, but even some of the guys on our roster. So we feel really good about those young men, Justin Butler and I'm missing one name, but those guys that we've brought in are really, Jones, Gabe Jones from West Jefferson. And he's a kid that ran for a ton of yards in high school and really like what he does.
Now, the offensive line last year, you almost had a next man up mentality because of injuries and all that stuff throughout the season. Another group that you kind of hit hard to try to bolster that position. That one, I guess, is a lot of local guys, it seems, that you have coming in to be in the offensive line for the Walsh Cavaliers.
Yep, I'm really excited about Jacob Glass from Madison. He's a guy that kind of really jumped out to us on film on defense, but we really feel like he can be a pretty good offensive powerhouse from that standpoint and really like what he does. David Rhodes from Lake is another guy that we really like. He's got a high motor. Ben Wyatt from Hoover. Cedric Woodford, who's a young man who hasn't played football very long, is a basketball guy and got into playing football and has some lineage playing football as well, but he's a 6'8", 280 pounds,
He's got some size to him.
Guy that you can build around. And then Stephen Gilland is another young man from Tusky Valley High School. His sister plays volleyball here at Walsh, and I believe she'll be a junior, maybe a senior.
Okay.
But there's some local connections with a lot of our kids on that side of it. And that's probably an area that we're not quite done yet. There's still some guys that we have an offer out to or are still recruiting.
Now we'll switch gears to the defensive side where you said that was the main key, the secondary, the offensive line. Let's start with the offensive line that you have coming in for your team in 2020.
The defensive kids that we brought in, we really felt good about the first 2 that really kind of committed to us because they were pretty high on our board as far as where we ranked them. Alex Rimmel from Northwest over just on the western side of Pennsylvania there up by Erie. As a young man, he's a big body and gets off the ball and strikes people and uses his hands really well. And then London Havens from Sandusky is a kid that we have really liked and tried to recruit and kept recruiting and did all the things that we needed to make sure we did. But we were really excited when we got London to jump into the group. And then guys that Caden Mail. There's a bunch of guys in that group that we feel like they can help us and help us quite quickly. Josh Green, different guys like that we're really excited about from that standpoint on the defensive line.
Now let's switch to the defensive backs and secondary for the 2020 recruiting class.
Defensive back-wise, again, we had a couple guys that were pretty high on our list right away. Diego Bremer from Cleveland Heights. We're really excited to get him and land him. Other guys that were in that group were Davion Bates, a kid from Springfield. Robbie Page, a local kid from Massillon. Really feel good about what he does. I've known his family for quite a long time, so it was a really good connection. I was glad we could get that done. And feel really good about the defensive backs that we brought in on campus and got to sign with us because, again, that was a high need for us as we were in the recruiting process.
Now, shifting gears, spring ball right around the corner it seems, even though it's rainy and snowy outside, but spring ball right around the corner. What's your mindset going into spring ball coming up here in a few weeks?
I'm really looking forward to getting our guys out on the practice field again. We've been working really hard in the weight room, really hard in the conditionings and the things that we're doing in the mornings, agilities and those type of things. And we've asked more of our players this year than we have ever before. And it hasn't been a taxing thing on them at all. And they're very willing to do it. And this team continues to take that work ethic mentality that they have and just go after things and do things well. And we haven't had many guys miss little things or that, but it's been really good. Our team is really starting to bond together, so it's going to be exciting to get them out in spring ball. I'm hoping for the weather we had. This would be great for the spring, but I'm expecting that we'll probably get some bad weather as we finally get through and start March 11th and finish up with our spring game on April 4th.
We'll look forward to seeing football back in action, and then next season we'll get it going here shortly. But thanks for joining me to talk about the signing class, and I guess I look forward to seeing football here soon.
Yep, thank you, appreciate it.